Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your weekly home for all things related to helping you on your journey to finding that amazing job. Each week I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, recruiters, entrepreneurs, coaches and bloggers who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had a decade ago when I graduated. And a big hello for episode 66 of the Graduate Job Podcast, where I'm joined by David Wain from the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibitions. In today's episode, we explore more about the exhibitions and how to make the most of graduate job fairs wherever you might be. We delve into the upcoming exhibitions in London and Birmingham, looking at what they are, who will be attending, and how you can go about bagging a free ticket. We also examine graduate recruitment fairs more widely, touching upon how to stand out, the questions to ask, what to say, what not to say, what to wear, and how you can impress the graduate recruiters that you're going to be speaking to. No matter where you are in the world, if you've ever thought about attending a graduate recruitment job fair, then this is a show for you. As always, there'll be a full transcript of the episode and links to everything we discuss in the show notes over at graduatejobpodcast.com/exhibitions. So make sure you're heading over there and do check them out. Before we start, a quick request from me. Your feedback helps me to create the episode you want to hear, so I've set up a super simple and very quick survey as I want the show to best serve your needs. It's got 5 questions and it'll take you just a minute to do, so please check it out at graduatejobpodcast.com/survey. Before we start though, let's have a message from today's sponsor, who are careergym.com. CareerGym is the #1 place for you to undertake all of your psychometric tests which you're going to face when you apply for a graduate job. You can practice verbal, numerical and abstract reasoning tests, all produced by experts and exactly the same as the ones you'll see in the real tests. You can just practice them there, or you can do them in exam mode under time pressure, and they all come with detailed explanations and solutions, and you can track your progress and see how you compare against your peers. Now, it's never too early to start revising for numerical tests, as you might not get much notice before the test, so you want to make sure that you're ready to go. I do know some firms will just give you literally days notice, so you need to make sure that you're practiced and ready for the test. So pull your finger out and start revising now. I've been recommending this site for years to the clients I coach, and it comes very highly recommended. And what's even better is if you use the code GJP, you'll get 20% off all of the tests. You can't say fairer than that. So head on over to careergym.com and use the code GJP to get 20% off and start practicing today. Now on with the show. I'm very pleased to welcome today David Wain from the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibition to the show. They are the organisers of the UK's biggest graduate-focused recruitment event. David, welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast.
Hi James, thank you very much.
And today we're going to explore about the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibitions in the UK and more generally how you can make the most of graduate recruitment events wherever you might be in the world. So David, to kick us off, would you like to tell us more about your role and also the exhibitions themselves?
Yeah, of course. So I've been running the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibition over the last 7 years. The exhibition is actually in its 30th year, so we started in 1987. And they're effectively, we run 2 large-scale events at key times of graduate recruitment. We've got London Olympia on October the 13th and 14th, and we've also got Birmingham NEC on November the 3rd and 4th. They're effectively 2 exhibitions to target final year students, but also those who have graduated in the last 2 years. And we normally expect around about 70 or 80 exhibitors, all sort of household names. So it could be anything from TK Maxx to Ofcom to Adidas to Hilti to Heathrow. But a lot of these companies are looking to recruit final year students or those that have graduated across multi-disciplines. So it could be a career that you're looking for in HR, marketing, sales or finance.
Excellent, and that's a nice big chunk of the graduate recruiters out there, 70 to 80. And how many people will you expect through the door over the different exhibitions?
Sure. I mean, it can vary from year to year, but based on the last 5 years, we've had somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 visitors to each exhibition.
Wow. Okay, that's great. And in terms of getting to the exhibitions, are they free? Do people need to get a ticket or just turn up on the door?
Well, it's free for all graduates to enter. So there's a number of travel networks, including trains, underground, overground buses, particularly for London Olympia. A nice thing that we do actually, James, is for all current students. So for all final years, we do subsidise travel up to the value of £8. So it's free for grads to get in, but we also make it as simple as possible for them to attend by subsidising their travel and effectively making it free to attend.
See, listeners, you can't say fairer than that. So, how's that done then, David? Do people have to submit afterwards sort of expenses, or is it paid for sort of on the day, or how does that work?
Sure. So we ask people who travel to the event to bring along their receipts, and that could be car parking, petrol, etc. And it's usually from around about 2:30 at the exhibition. We'll actually have somebody present from the organiser's office, and they just bring their receipts. They can make their claim, and we will refund the travel from there.
Nice and easy. And do people need to register in advance, or can you just rock up to them?
Well, we run. You can just attend on the day, but we do encourage people to thoroughly research and look at the companies that are attending, and we tend to do that by an extensive UK national network when we're promoting the events. So effectively, we'll use channels such as The Guardian, London Underground, Spotify, radio campaigns, key graduate websites, so things like Milk Round, Prospects, Target Jobs. And we essentially guide people to the homepage of the website there. At that point, that's where we encourage them to pre-register. But as I say, if you haven't got time to do that, you are more than welcome to turn up on the day, and we'll just ask you to fill out a simple registration form from there. Just as an aside, the exhibition at London is open till 11 till 5 on Friday and 11 till 4 on the Saturday. And Birmingham NEC, the exhibition is open both days from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Excellent. And listeners, all the links to everything we discussed today and a full transcript are available in the show notes over at graduatejobpodcast.com/exhibitions. And there'll be links to everything you need to do to go and sign up to the events that we're talking about today. So, David, I mean, between the two events, London and Birmingham, does one tend to be sort of bigger or busier than the other, or do they both have the same, people exhibiting there?
Well, they're both very similar in size, just in terms of both exhibitor numbers and visitors. The reason that we hold them in the two locations, James, is because obviously there's a key network of companies in and around the London area, but we also travel further afield to Birmingham because it's a more central location in the UK. So that will enable people from all over the country. So it could be the northwest, the northeast. We even have people as far afield as Scotland, right down to the southwest of the country. So it really does give the opportunity for people to attend both events and look at both locations, just in case they miss out on one particular area or can't make one particular day.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And I think actually I've went to the Birmingham one last time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was everyone can get to Birmingham. It's always nice and central in the
Sure.
So aside from the companies and their stands, what other events do you have over the 2 days, David?
Sure. Well, the reason we call it an exhibition, James, is because we actually encourage our visitors to come along for 3, 4, 5 hours. And actually, graduates or those in their final year, a lot of them are keen to get the career sorted out before embarking on their final year dissertations or, in fact, exams. So during the exhibition, we've got a number of feature areas in operation. So from a visitor perspective, we've got things like a CV advice clinic. So candidates can come along and they can get some free advice on what's included within their CV. We also have a mock assessment centre, and all of these feature areas are independently run, so it will give the visitor a real experience of what to expect during the interview process. So it really is a good insight into the types of questions that companies and organisations will be asking. We also tend to listen to our recruiters and the graduate recruiters in recent times. We've had a request that sometimes graduates aren't as well researched as companies would like them to be. So
yeah, definitely the case amongst the graduates I coach is that's a common issue.
Sure. So last year we introduced a Skills of Business workshop, which is little half-hour taster sessions, and it just gives the visitor or the prospective applicant an idea of what to expect and the types of questions that organisations are going to ask them. Other things that we have at the exhibition, we have 2 presentation theatres. One is very much geared towards a particular company, so it will be a company such as Ofcom or Adidas or TVK Maxx talking about their company-specific graduate roles and how to go aboard that process in terms of application. And then we have a more general presentation theatre, which is entitled Careers in Industry. And that will give, it's maybe geared towards those graduates who are still undecided about which sector or industry they want to enter, and it will give them a lot more information about a particular industry. So it could be engineering, retail, finance, so on and so forth.
Oh, brilliant. And yeah, those events sound brilliant. I mean, the CV clinic and the mock assessment centres, I mean, they're brilliant things you need to practice. So yeah, definitely worth checking them out, listeners. Is it possible to pre-book for those events, or is it a question of on the day just queuing up and getting in them nice and early?
It is. We try and keep it as open as possible. So the feature areas I had mentioned, like the mock assessment centre, it is very popular. You can't actually pre-book, so we do ask people to turn up as early as possible on the day. As soon as they get there, there'll be various different advice points, and that's where careers advisors and some of our own company will be on hand to provide advice and tell people how to go about signing up for those particular areas.
Excellent. Oh no, that sounds brilliant. So David, we have listeners from all over the world, and sadly the £8 help with the reimbursement of travel is probably not going to help with the flights from many of those locations. So thinking more generally around tips that people can use for recruitment events wherever they are around the world, what advice would you give people who are turning up so they can make the most of the time at the event?
Of course. So there's a number of key issues there, James. So the first thing I would recommend is be flexible in your approach. So consider the skill set that you have as an individual, and then maybe look outside of the box a little bit and consider companies or organisations that you wouldn't have necessarily considered. So what I actually mean by that is, you'll get companies like Adidas, who most people would say, oh, I don't want a career in retail. But actually, when you delve a bit further and you do your research, Adidas are actually recruiting for human resources, sales, marketing, technology students. So it's quite important to have an open mind and be flexible. Now, saying that, other students or other graduates are very targeted, and they have a very set way of thinking who I want to work for and in which particular industry. So there is also nothing wrong with that, but again, it's key to do research on that particular industry or company. And it's a case of sort of getting yourself ahead of the competition. So make sure you stand out and make sure that you go to an exhibition or you make an application and you stand out from the crowd. And that could be key questions about that organisation through its website, social media, graduate opportunities, or even their corporate social responsibility initiatives. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, with 70 and 80 companies there, it's you've only got 5 hours in total that it's open, and then take away the time for CV clinic, talks, etc. So you've only got a couple of hours. So you need to have done your research and be focused about who you want to speak to, and plan your time accordingly so you can make the most of your time.
Exactly, and I think it's useful to sort of pre-prepare a list of questions, because if you're looking to get ahead of the competition, it's useful to find out things about such as the culture of the company, the recruitment process, and always come across as open and engaging, asking questions about particular career paths or indeed the expansion of the company.
Yep, just don't do, listeners, what many people said to me when I was working at recruitment events like this, when for my previous consulting company, where people would just walk up to the stand and say, what do you do, or what's this company do, and it doesn't stand you in good stead when people come up and you've seen that they've put no research or thought into approaching the stand.
Sure. I mean, it's a really competitive market at the moment, James, the graduate recruitment market. Compared to 25 years ago, when 15% of the population had a degree, that number is closer to 40% now. And it is important for graduates or prospective employees to do their research, come across as engaging, dress very well, because employers are looking for more than just a sort of body walking around an exhibition. They want somebody to be completely engaged with their company and show some passion for that particular industry.
Yep. And just come back to the point you mentioned there about dress. I mean, would you recommend smart casual, completely casual, formal? I mean, what would you recommend?
I mean, a lot depends on the type of company that you're recruiting for. I mean, it's not as if everybody is looking for a prospective employee to wear a suit and tie. But we do recommend that people dress to impress. Obviously, there are particular industries where if you are going for a job interview or role, the full sort of suit and tie is obviously applicable for that particular organisation. But there may be some sort of technology roles or technology companies where we would maybe sort of suggest a smart casual. But again, what you're looking to do is stand out from particular competition within that marketplace. And a lot of exhibitors in the past have commented that people are very smartly dressed at this exhibition. So we would probably recommend to go that route as first points of call.
Yep. And given that they get very busy with lots of people there, and then they open from say 11 till 4, 11 till 5, I guess you recommend that people turn up nice and early so they can speak to the recruiters before they get a bit tired and jaded towards the end of the day?
Oh, absolutely, because remember, some of these recruiters will be repeating the same information. So if you can get there nice and early, as I say, opens at 11 o'clock on each day. There are usually considerable queues before the exhibition opens. So I would always recommend getting there between 10:15 and 10:30. And again, it just gives you a chance to sort of prepare yourself in the queue, go over your research, and maybe go over the CV that you've prepared.
Yep, no, definitely. And in terms of the people who make up the stand for different companies, does it tend to be the recruiters themselves and a mix of graduates, or just recruiters that people will be speaking to?
I'd say 90% of cases you get a good mixture of people exhibiting on the stand. So we always recommend this when we're out and talking to clients or exhibitors. So we recommend that we have a senior person there, just to cover all questions. But a lot of companies are now going down the route of bringing along graduates who are currently doing those roles. And we've tended to find that this helps more so in peer-to-peer engagement. So any visitor that's coming along, they've identified a company they would like to work for. They're going to get first-hand experience of somebody who's been doing that role for 6 months to a year. And that's going to help them make a far better decision on whether they'd like to pursue that particular route.
So listeners, this is a brilliant opportunity to speak to the current graduates firsthand about their experiences, what they're enjoying about it, challenges they're finding, the best thing about the role, etc. And this is all just super useful for when you do get further down the application process and you get asked the inevitable question of, why do you want to work for company X? And if you can say, well, I was speaking to one of your current graduates, Barry at the exhibition, and he said, he really enjoyed X, Y, and Z about the company. It just, stands you head and shoulders above the other people who haven't put that effort in the first place.
Indeed.
So, David, unfortunately, time is running away with us, but one final question before we move on to the weekly staple questions. What would you say to someone who's in two minds about whether they should come and visit the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibition?
Sure. I mean, obviously, I would say it's a great event to come along to because you're going to meet some high-level exhibitors, but at the same time, you're going to meet some smaller, medium enterprises, and it'll give you a very good understanding of positions available across the entire graduate recruitment industry. If you're not quite decided or ready to look on which industry or which company, then we'd advise you to come along anyway, because you'll get some invaluable information on how to prepare for interview processes, what your CV looks like, or even just get some advice on which industry or which company would be most suited to your skill set.
Excellent. And listeners, the dates, the locations, so there's no excuse for not coming along and chatting to those 70 to 80 different companies, and also the brilliant different showcased CV clinics and the like that are also going on. So, David, moving on to the weekly staple questions. First
Sure.
one, putting you on the spot now. Which website would you point our listeners to?
I've always found that throughout my career, one of the best sources of information is economist.com, where you can get a very good overall view of worldwide political events and current affairs.
No, I definitely echo that, and students, and current students anyway, take advantage of the ridiculously cheap student offer you can get for The Economist. For pennies a week, you can keep yourself informed about everything that's going on around the world, which always helps because you never know when that information might be useful in an interview situation. So yeah, definitely check out The Economist. I like that recommendation. Next one, David. What one book would you point our listeners to?
Well, James, I'm very interested in sports and always have been since an early age. So I think the book I would recommend it's called Life is Not a Game of Perfect, and it's by an author called Bob Rotella. Bob Rotella was actually a sports psychologist who's worked with some huge names in the sporting world, including Tiger Woods, of all people. But actually, he applied his sort of psychological stance and analysis and applies that to life more generally. And there's some really good information and advice in there.
Oh, brilliant. We'll have to check that one out myself. I've enjoyed the chimp paradox, which was good. But no, this is a new one for me, so I will definitely check that out. And listeners, all links to everything we discussed, as I mentioned, can be found in the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/exhibitions. That sounds like a good book, David, that we should maybe send some copies to the England football team, and hopefully they can take some inspiration from it. And finally, what one job search tip would you give our listeners today that they can implement to improve their hunt for a job?
I think I'd give two pieces of advice. One to be concise, and the other to be passionate about the role, but also the company that you're looking to work for.
No, I completely agree. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, it's a super competitive job market out there. If you think of the thousands of people applying, and you can't separate down everyone who's got a 2-1 because so many people get 2-1. But one of the things that can really make you stand out is passion. If you can demonstrate passion for the company you're applying for, you'll definitely be picked out above the people who are just applying for the sake of applying.
Absolutely, yeah.
David, thank you so much for appearing on the Graduate Job Podcast today. What's the best way that people can get in touch with you and also the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibitions?
Sure. If anyone's looking for any further advice, the best way of doing that is through our website, and the website address is www.gradjobs.co.uk.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, David. Thanks for appearing on the Graduate Job Podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks, James.
Many thanks to David for his time and insights today. Now, listeners, if you are near London or Birmingham, then make sure you get yourself along to the National Graduate Recruitment Exhibitions. The chance to chat directly with all of those 70 to 80 recruiters is an opportunity which is too good to miss. As I mentioned, when you make it through to the interview stage, being able to name drop in that you've had those conversations and put that effort in will stand you in good stead. Now, I know that lots of you listening aren't going to be near London or Birmingham, but don't worry. You can still utilise David's great insights about how to stand out at graduate recruitment fairs and put them into practice at local ones wherever you might be listening. So there you go. Episode 66 done and dusted. A couple of final things from me before we finish. One is got an email from Sam this week. Thank you for getting in touch, Sam, who very kindly asked how can he support the show. So thanks for asking, Sam. Appreciate that you care. And a good way for you to support the show is to buy your goods from Amazon via one of the links in the show notes. So you'll see that in the show notes for each episode, there's often a link via a book to Amazon. Now, what's good is if you click on the link and buy your products through one of those links, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but Amazon kindly pay a few pennies on the pound, which helps to support the show and keep the lights on and the hosting costs and all that boring stuff. So if you would like to support the show, that's a good way to do it. Now, if you've got any questions like Sam, or you need some coaching or help as you apply or look for a graduate job, then do drop me a line at hello@graduatejobpodcast.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and it's always nice to get some mail. Do join me next week when I speak to the great graduate scheme Charity Works. If you're interested in working for a charity, you need to listen to this episode. All that remains to say is I hope you enjoyed the episode today, but more importantly, I hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.